Hey guys, Kinsey here, and now it's time for the video that you guys have all been waiting for. I've had so many comments about this asking, where is that Japan pickups video? Well, you know what? Here it is. And it's a little bit funny because I'll talk about it a little bit as I go through everything. But right after I got back from Japan, I went to PRGE and I sold a lot of stuff from Japan at my booth. But I'll go into that a little bit more when I talk about each store. So this isn't everything, but this is actually the stuff that I bought for me that I'm keeping. So to start with, I'll talk about everyone's favorite Super Potato. And the reason I want to start with that one is because that's the one everyone's like, oh, you're going to Japan? You got to go to Super Potato. You got to go to Super Potato, you know? And I was like, okay. And then I ended up, so my first night in Japan was in Osaka, which was a whole thing, let me tell you. Well, I'll tell you the quick version because it's long. So because of the typhoon, we had to fly into Tokyo instead of Osaka because that was our original plan. But they closed down that airport at that time. So we had to fly into Tokyo instead, but all of our hotel reservations were in Osaka. So first day in Japan, we had to get off the plane, figure out the trains, get on the bullet train, because Osaka's not that close to Tokyo. It's 4 hours away. So trying to figure it out, and one train broke down, so we had to get off, and because the train broke down, we missed our connecting train. So being the very first day, being lost as hell, the train broke down, we missed our connecting train, we got on the wrong bullet train, so we landed, to give you a perspective, we landed at about, 4:30 in the afternoon, and we didn't get to Osaka until midnight. And what we ended up doing is, because we were staying in Namba, which is a little bit a ways from Osaka Station, which is where the bullet train stops, and we had just given up. It was a little bit past midnight, and the trains were stopping for the night, and we finally took a cab, which was another experience because the cab driver didn't speak English, and it's our first day, so we're still in a little bit of that culture shock mode, trying to get to the hotel. So it was a very crazy night trying to get there, or afternoon into evening into late night into the next day. And oh my gosh, it was insane. But my hotel in Osaka, which was awesome. It was a little apartment. It was $30 a night. Oh my God, it was so worth it. But it was a block away from Super Potato. So that was the very first game store I went to in Japan. And let me tell you, it was amazing. They had so much stuff. It was so much fun to look at. And I'll actually show you a few things that I got there. And so I'm actually going to show you two Super Potato runs, and I'll tell you the difference between the two. But so I bought Dragon Quest Monsters on the Game Boy Color. I got it for 980 yen, which is $7, $8, or $8, $9-ish. And I love Dragon Quest Monsters. I might like it more than Dragon Quest proper. But you didn't hear that from me. And I don't know, it was complete in box, it was adorable, I was still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed first day basically in Japan. My other day was just a train fiasco. And I was just so overwhelmed actually of being in there. I had forgotten, I should have planned for next time, write everything down that I'm looking for, because I would walk into a game store and be like, I'm so overwhelmed, and I'm so So I got Dragon Quest Monsters, and then that first day, I also got Chocobo's Dungeon, and there's a funny story about this, which I'll get to in a bit. But I also bought Chocobo Dungeon. It was 680 yen, so $6. Because I love everything Final Fantasy, particularly the spin-off games, because there's not really that many of them, unless you include Crystal Chronicles and all that stuff. But Chocobo's Dungeon, Chocobo Racing, Chocobo Tales, all of that stuff is so endearing and adorable that when I saw it, and it's really not that expensive, I went ahead and picked it up. All right, and I also bought the second one, but you'll see that. Spoilers. And then this is gonna be my next trip to Super Potato, which was in Akihabara. And so I learned some lessons with Super Potato, especially since it was my very first game store in Japan. And I was all just like, oh my God. Unless you're looking for something uber specific, maybe don't buy it at Super Potato. Super Potato's super worth going to, though. Let me tell you, it was so much fun to look through. They actually had a bunch of plushies in, bulk. So I bought a bunch of Kirby plushies all in one, like, you know, plastic wrapper. I bought a bunch of slime plushies that I sold all at PRG. And those were a relatively good deal, actually. I think my slime plushies were 1,900 yen for 5 of them. And then, so, I mean, bringing them back to the States, you could sell them for, I think I sold them for 7 or 8 each. But, like, I mean, it works out. But their prices aren't the best. And I will warn you with that is not the place to buy necessarily unless you're looking for very specific things. Because I also found at Super Potato one of the Hori controllers, which I've been wanting for a really long time. This is the one for the 64. And they had actually a bunch of them there. And I just really wanted a see-through one, even though they had the yellow one, which was really hard to not get. Really hard. I almost bought it. But I mean, I bought this for 74.80 yen, I believe. So that's like $70. And so yes, it is like real money, and it was, you know, a little bit more expensive, but I've passed these up in the US for 100, 125, 130, you know. And so being able to get it for what I thought was kind of a deal. It's not a, you know, it's nothing crazy, but I've been wanting one of these forever. So I picked one of these up at Super Potato. And then I also picked up the Hori PlayStation 1 controller. Number one, look at this thing. It's so much smaller than I thought it was. Because I was looking for this, and then I found it, and I was like, damn, that's a small controller. But it's so cute, and it's very vaguely pink. And so I kind of love it. It's funny because I actually bought this for my partner because they were saying that, you know, that's what they gave me a list of stuff they wanted me to look for in Japan because they didn't go with me. And when I found this, I was like, dude, it's so small. I'm going to keep it for myself. Don't worry, I got them other controllers. But so if you're looking for something like very specific, Super Potato is not a bad place. But that's all I got at Super Potato. And I learned my lesson. Don't go, you know, buy all the stuff at Super Potato first. I bought a few more things there, but I sold them at Portland. So that's going to be kind of the story for every store I went to, unfortunately, because I'm recording this after the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, because it wasn't that long after I got back. But, there's more. And so I actually I stayed a couple days in Osaka, Kyoto area, and then I traveled up to Tokyo proper, and I stayed in Akihabara, which is where I met Chris Kohler of Kotaku and Wired fame, and he took me shopping, and we spent a whole day, you know, game shopping, eating delicious curry, drinking some beer, singing karaoke, oh my god, it was a fantastic day. If you have a chance to even spend one day with someone who has been to Japan or lived in Japan or anything like that, it was amazing. Especially since he speaks Japanese, it was really helpful at like restaurants and stuff like that. But he took me to quite a few stores, and some of them are awesome. And one of them was Friends. And this store is really cool. It's jam-packed with so many awesome titles. And actually when I was there, well, number one, it was hot as balls in that store. So I think I probably could have looked at more things, but I was dying. Like, I was so warm. And the person in front of me who was checking out was buying like 1,000 manuals. So I was like sweating, and I'm like, I just want to buy these Sailor Moon games. Can you please hurry up? Like, it was kind of hilarious just because I was dying. I was so hot. But I bought Sailor Moon games. And Friends is also one of those stores that's like, not overpriced by any means, but it's one of the higher priced stores from what I noticed. I mean, I didn't look through everything, obviously. But because they had really nice in-box Sailor Moon stuff, I decided to just go for it. So I got Sailor Moon Super S. I have this card only, but now I have it in the box. And also with Sailor Moon R on the Game Boy. It's pretty awesome. Well, I mean, I guess also Friends has a bunch of loose manuals, unless that guy bought them all. Ugh. It's like waiting for like an old person to return fruit with a coupon. Like, it took forever. But anyways, woo, now I'm feeling warm just like I felt in there. I think that means it's time for a beer. That was an awkward segue, but it wasn't fake. I'm really getting warm. So my first beer is gonna be Stillwater Extra Dry, which is a sake style saison. It doesn't have a lot of information on here, so you know what, sake style saison. I like sake, I like saisons. Bring it. But yeah, this does not have a lot of information on this can. So, ooh, bubbles. We're just gonna go for it. Gotta cool down after that trip to Friends. Oh no, oh no. Sorry. Alright, so that foam tasted alright. Sake style saison. I'm still wrapping my head around that, but I guess I can. It's really carbonated. It kind of tastes like a saison. It's just really light, very carbonated, kind of crisp. I'm not necessarily getting sake, but then again it says sake style saison. It's not made with sake necessarily. Well, maybe it is. It doesn't have any information on the can. I don't know. It's pretty good. It's fine. But most importantly, it's cold. Studio lights are hot. All right, now that I spilled that on some of my games, no big deal, it's fine. We will move on to the game store called Trader. And Trader was a lot of floors, and okay, so the funny part about this video is that I waited so long to shoot it that I don't remember quite everything. Which is my fault. I totally should have filmed it earlier, and especially before I sold all that stuff at Portland. But I've learned from my mistakes. I'm going to Japan again in May. I've learned. But anyways, from Trader, I got Magic Knight Ray Earth on the Game Gear, and I have one of the Game Gear games. This is a different one. And like Sailor Moon, I really like Magic Knight Ray Earth because ooh, excuse me. I told you it's really carbonated. But Magic Knight Ray Earth is just one of those anime series that I absolutely loved when I was little. And I read all the mangas and everything. Like, there was a few anime series that super pulled me in when I was in high school. When I was in anime club. No big deal. Hey, boys. But this is Magic Knight Ray Earth 2, Making of Magic Knight is what it's called. And I didn't have this one. And this one, it was complete. And I spent 2,180 yen on it. So it's like $21, 20 bucks. Complete. So I figured I'd go for it. And then I also got controllers, color variants. Woo! It's kind of my bread and butter. But I got the gray Xbox controller, which only came out in Japan, and it's beautiful. It's so simple, but I think I really like it better than the black. It's so nice. And I only paid 700 yen for it. It's like $6 bucks. Like, it's nothing. And it's just one of those things I really wanted, and I walked in, and it wasn't in a junk pile, but it was in, like, just a bin of cords and crap. And I saw it, and I was like, that's the one I want! That's the one I want! I'm so excited! Poor Chris shopping with me in Akihabara. I was probably, like, half embarrassing, half something completely else. I don't know. But on that note, speaking of being embarrassing, I should probably tell a little story time. Let me hold my beer. So at one point, Chris was like, okay, so there's a vintage PC section in this store, and I don't remember if it was Trader actually, and it's wherever I got this, and I'm 95% sure I got this at Trader, but I don't know. But it was like an upstairs floor that is mostly porn / erotic PC games, but they also have a very small vintage PC section, non-porn. And one thing I noticed when I was in Japan is that the vintage PC stuff is so cool. It's so cool. The cover art is fantastic. Like, there's some versions of games that only came out that way, and I was just blown away. I had no idea that there was a vintage PC kind of collecting thing in Japan. It was so cool. But the funny part of this, he was like, Kinsey, I'm sorry, but I have to take you to the porn floor. And he was like, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. And I was like, okay, that's fine with me. I mean, I don't care. But the funny part is that someone recognized me up there. And he was just like, oh, you're Kinsey from Metal Jesus. And he was like, so you're buying these games? And I was like, no, I'm looking at these vintage PC games. And he was like, oh, I didn't know they were up here. It was hilarious. And Chris still tells that story. So, I don't know, worth it? It was so funny. Okay. Man, I was drinking that beer, but now I talked about that store, and now I gotta go right into another beer? This is crazy! It's kind of like my trip to Japan. I drank a lot of beer. But this one is Japanese themed, but a beer from the US. And this is Matchless and Chainline Brewing Company did a collaboration of its ake. And so this is a rice lager. And this actually has information on it, which is fantastic. Oh, God, that beer is really carbonated. I'm like really burpy right now. Woo! Sorry. I told you it's really carbonated. Bubbles. Anyways, it's ake rice lager. The hops they use is Warrior, Magnum, and Czechsaz. I haven't heard of that last one. And then malts, Superior Pilsner, Chit Malt, Calrose rice, and jasmine rice. And they're using some like rice in their like mash, I guess, for the malt. Obviously, I don't know. Global yeast. And the way they describe this is bone dry. With enzymes, gluten reduced with enzymes, and Japanese inspired lager. And I've actually been to Matchless Brewing. It's down in Tumwater, Washington. They have actually really good beers. I'm really happy that we stopped there when we did because it was like on a back and forth from Portland kind of thing. This says store cold, drink fresh. It's kind of fresh. But it is 4% alcohol by volume. It's ake! Rice lager. Let's give it a shot. Need to be less overzealous with those can openings. All right, so this is a lager, so it's going to be real light. It's also pretty carbonated because there's like a shit ton of bubbles on the side of this glass. Hopefully not as much as that one, or else this video is going to become a burp fest. And I still got one more beer! Oh my God, what have I done? Anyways, it smells like kind of like rice and kind of like animal pee. I'm gonna go with rice. I'm just gonna go with rice. I'm sorry, everybody. But it is kind of like that. I'll be happy to announce that it does not taste like animal pee at all. I think the rice gives it some sort of like interesting body though, because it does kind of have that fullness of rice, if that makes sense at all. But that's the experience that I'm having in the lager party in my mouth. It's a very full lager flavor. I don't love that smell, but it has a very, it has a weird mouthfeel for a lager. It almost feels like when your nose kind of gets stuffed up. I don't know how to explain this. It's full. It's full of rice and fucking lager. It's pretty good. Sorry, apparently these beer reviews are going downhill. But at least I'm drinking beer. Oh, almost made myself cry with laughing. Whew. All right, video games! Going back to video games because I can't handle this. Okay, also in Akihabara, there's a store called Mondo Rocky, and it's also another multi-level store. It has a lot of collectibles as well as games and things like that. But there, if you follow me on Twitter or on Instagram, you already saw some of these photos. But I bought, okay, so it's kind of funny because, oh my goodness! I've never had a burping problem in videos before. Sorry, this is what's happening. Anyways, you may have already seen pictures that I bought a gigantic bag of Pokemon. And I needed a little bit of liquid courage to do it. I actually went to Hitachi Ino Brewing while I was trying to decide if I was going to get it, which if you saw my beer in Japan video, I talked a lot about that brewery and how it's beautiful and it's right by Akihabara. But I needed a little bit of courage to do it because it was like, what, 300 and some, it was like 30,000 yen, so that would have been like 270 bucks. But it was just full of these like little Pokemon figures. I bought so many of them. And they're like just these little hollow, like almost like gashapon figures. And let me tell you, I kept a handful of them for myself, of course. I kept like a Cubone and a Gloom and a Vaporeon and Gengar and Bulbasaur, all of Bulbasaur's, whatever they're called, evolutions, because he's my favorite. But I bought so many of them. I sold a lot of them actually at Portland. It was amazing. One of the best things I bought in Japan, even though packing it was absolutely ridiculous because, I mean, it was gigantic. It was like 700 and something Pokemon figures. So like, I ended up buying so much stuff that I was having such a hard time fitting it in my bag that I had to open the bag and then sprinkle the Pokemon figures throughout my luggage. It was insane and stupid, but it was worth it. So, also there, whew, it's exhausting talking about those Pokemon figures. I had to like repack my bag in the lobby of a hotel, opening this thing of Pokemon figures and dumping them in every bag and every pocket. And then at one point on the flight, which I was super hungover, I like dropped my backpack and then outspilled some Pokemon figures because they were literally in every pocket of every bag I had. It was crazy. But I also bought Bomberman on the Virtual Boy because it's awesome. And I love this cover so much because it's like kind of Halloween themed and something about a weird monster movie gothy Bomberman I love. So I bought this as well. And there's another store that I am struggling a little bit to remember. Maybe this will help. This won't help. Oh. But I've posted a lot about it, so you've probably already seen it. But so me and Chris were walking around the store in Akihabara and we were like, what's that? It's kind of weird and gigantic and it's all like saran wrapped and taped together and it's like this big bundly thing. And I was trying to figure out what it was and I pulled it over and the first thing I saw was the price tag and it said 300 yen. And I was like, dude, that's like $2 and something. Like that is like nothing. So we were kind of like trying to look it up on our phones because we didn't really know what it was. But Chris helped me out here because he saw someone else also looking at it, so he went and grabbed it. And I bought it, and I think I'm actually really excited that I bought it because it's a lot cooler than I thought, even though this is on like the third day in Japan, and I had to lug this thing around. And it's like not an easy shape to pack. It's really fat and it's really weird shaped. So then having this for the next like week in Japan was a little rough. I'll be honest. But so the saran wrap bundle was the Yamaha Capira, which I'll probably do a separate video on it because there's a lot to sink in on this. Uh-oh. But it's kind of like a Sega Pico, and it also had the manual, it has the keyboard insert, it has a lot with it, and it also had like 5 games. Oh, Jesus. One was an actual, Yamaha Capira game, and then the rest were just like edutainment Pico titles. But what the Yamaha Capira is, in short, is that it is a Pico, but it has its own library of games called the Capira mixtapes, and those only play on the Yamaha Capira. And it also plays Pico games. So in a way, it's kind of a definitive version of the Pico because it also has MIDI out and it has a lot more functionality than the Pico does. So it's kind of weird, and if you Google it, there's really not that much information out there. Oh my god. Sorry. There was a Pikachu under my leg stabbing me. No big deal. Anyways, so, you know, I'm kind of excited that I got it because I've messed around with it a couple times and it's really kind of interesting. And, you know, you can plug a microphone into it. So, granted, it's edutainment, so it is like kind of more little kid games, which is fine. It's still fine. And I have a game that has like little kid karaoke on it and it's adorable and it's all like little kids. It's amazing. So I'm going to have to do a separate video for the Yamaha Capira because it's weird and I love it. And I'm really happy that I bought it, especially for 300 yen. So, okay, I have to figure out where I'm at now. I have Pokemon everywhere. Whew. So, there was a store that I went to, and it was in like, kind of like an alley, but indoors. So it was like a bunch of like, kind of like market stalls. And I don't remember what it was called, but it was in like this long row of, you know, market stalls that had a lot of like electronics and things like that. And this one was video games. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Anyways, but they had a bunch of 100 yen games and I bought so many of them. There are a lot of what I sold at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. But what I kept for myself was Chocobo's Dungeon 2. Oh my goodness. Sorry. And the reason I brought this up earlier is because I also bought Chocobo's Dungeon 2 at Super Potato. But it was like 600 or 700 yen, and then I found it for 100 yen. So I'm just saying, like, Super Potato's great, but sometimes their prices are a little high because they know that it's like the tourist destination to go. But again, if you're looking for something specific, by all means. But then I bought this in an alley for 100 yen. And I also got Jammer Lammy and a bunch of other stuff that I sold at PRGE, but I bought like Princess Maker and Dragon Quest and things like that people, you know, will buy for me at Portland. It was great. And Japan has a store that's called Sofmap, which is a weird kind of otaku Best Buy. It's weird. The lights are really bright in there, but I got Persona Dancing on the PS4. And so this place is sort of more like, it has Xbox 360, PS3, Vita. Oh, their Vita sections are insane. It was like 2 or 3 shelves, like it's crazy. And our Vita sections here are usually like a half of a sad shelf, but that's like their 360 sections. I was really hard to find 360 games there. There was like 4 at each store. It was crazy. But anyways, I got Persona 3/4 Dancing VR enabled. I was really excited when I got this. Now it's out here. But I still really like the shiny cover, even though my DLC won't work. But it's so pretty, and I love Persona. It'll be great in my Persona collection, so I bought it. I may have been drinking that night because it was like almost a full price game. I think it was $50. Whatever. Vacation money. All right. And then I have one more place to talk about, and then I have one more beer. I think maybe I'll do the place first. We'll figure it out. You know what? This is whatever. So a place that I've heard a lot about is Book Off and Hard Off. Hard Off. Makes me laugh every time. Anyways, so I found that Book Off and Hard Off are very different. Book Off is kind of like a half-price books, which is in no way a bad thing. I bought a lot of stuff there. A lot of stuff that I sold at PRGE. I bought a lot of like, you know, Ocarina of Time on the 64, Pokemon Stadium, like all of those things that, you know, can be relatively cheap there and people will pay for here. It was kind of nice. But what I bought at Book Off for me to keep was Dragon Quest VI on the Super Famicom. Complete in box. It's beautiful. And it was $4.63, which is like $4, $4.50. Perfect. I'll take it. And I also bought one of the Popolacroix games because I love Popolacroix. But unfortunately, we only got the first one on the PSP here. And then we got that Purple LaCroix Cross Harvest Moon thing. But there's actually a lot more games in that series. So I had to buy the Purple LaCroix on the PS2. Oh, and that was 500 yen. It was like $5. Less than $5. Oh my goodness, burps. I also bought Bomberman. And this one's cool because it has like the regular, you know, standard Bomberman party mode. And then it also has an adventure mode. So I got this. And I also got Rhapsodia. I basically got it because it was 232 yen, which is like $2. And it looked really cool. It had the art that reminded me of like Suikoden Tactics and things like that. I hadn't heard of it before, and it looks awesome. $2. Yes, of course I'll buy it. All right, and then on to Hard Off. I don't have a lot to show for Hard Off because I found it last. And I bought so much stuff there. I think I have some pictures that I can put in here. But I sold a lot of it at PRG. And so what I kept for myself was Pokemon Stadium 2, which is basically Pokemon Stadium 1 for us. And it was... Okay, so let me tell you about the junk floor. The junk floor was amazing. There was the regular video game floor, which I found a few things on, and I was like, well, these prices are okay, you know, nothing crazy, nothing bad, you know, they're fine. And so I bought a few things there, which I ended up giving as gifts and things like that. But then I decided to go upstairs, and there I found like musical instruments and things like that, and I was like, that's still, you know, pretty cool. And then I was just wandering, and eventually I got to a floor that said junk, and I was like, junk floor, you say? I like junk floors. So there, I found like bins of like, you know, the Dreamcast, you know, VMUs and broken controllers and things like that, which I do like that kind of stuff, and I bought a little bit of it. But then I turned and I saw this rack of games, and by junk floor, and I tested everything, you know, all the stuff I sold at Portland, I tested, and it worked fine. So I don't know if junk floor also means like, hey, we have like 1 million copies of Dragon Quest. How about we put them on the junk floor for $1? Oh my gosh. I bought so much, and I didn't bring a basket up with me, that I was just like trying to get it down the stairs. And I had already checked out once. I had checked out, you know, I paid when I found the stuff on the very first floor of video games. And then I came back downstairs and I was just like, I found the junk floor. But what I kept for myself was, of course, Pokemon Stadium. And then actually this one, I really don't know that much about it. It's a puzzle game, and it looked really cool, so I bought it because it was cheap. But Hard Off was amazing. If you go to Japan, find that junk floor. It's mystical. It's a land of junk, and I love junk. And I bought so much stuff there. It was insane. And into that, I'll go into my cheap beer, because I did not spend that much money at Hard Off, and I bought a lot of things. So next beer is Orion Premium Draft Beer. You know, when it says premium, it's probably not premium. It's like Miller. Orion Draft Beer's clear, mild taste is widely loved as an Okinawa original. Okinawa is an island south of Japan, so it's sort of like Japan, Hawaii, tropical, warm, all of that business. So this is probably going to be really light and really crisp and fresh that you would want to drink in warm weather, I think. You know what? Let's try it. Yeah, imported from Okinawa, Japan. Be Okinawa is what it says on the side. Do I got any more facts? That's the government warning. That's not a fact. No, I do not. I don't even see an ABV, so that's cool. Let's give it a try. Yep, really, really light. Don't go over, don't go over, don't go over. It's fine, it's fine. It smells like a cheap beer, to be honest. It kind of smells like a Japanese lager, so kind of like Sapporo or Asahi or Kirin Ichiban. Any of those kind of beers, it smells a lot like that. And it tastes a lot like that too. But it is good. I mean, it's a clean, fresh, cheap beer. which is sometimes hard to find. It doesn't taste some cheap beers taste like on the dirtier metallic side. They do, you know it. But this one doesn't so much. It's a little bit crisper. It's nice, I like it. I do like me some, cheap beers every now and then. Who doesn't? But I definitely have my favorites, which I should do a different video on because that would be fun. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, some of the stores that I sold everything in Portland. But I have B-roll of it, so it's fine. But I went to a store called Beep. And Beep is a kind of vintage computer arcade store in Akihabara. And it is really cool. There was a bunch of arcade boards that you could buy there, which I was looking at and I didn't know what I was looking for and I was overwhelmed and they're expensive, so I didn't buy any. But there's a section of Beep that has a bunch of vintage Japanese PCs running all together. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. And I think that's the only place in the entire world that you can see that many Japanese PCs, retro ones, running all at the same time. And it's beautiful. And it was such a cool experience to see that. And I'm kind of seeing this history that I completely missed growing up in the US. But looking at Japanese PC games, they were so cool. The art was great. Like, I wanted to buy them all, but I was like, I don't know you. So I didn't know if I wanted to take that plunge. And that's a whole new collecting area that I don't know if I want to go to. But they were so, so awesome. But at Beep, on the floor, there was like a bin that I could pull out that was like 3 for $5 console games. So it was all like Famicom, Super Famicom, stuff like that. But I bought a lot of stuff there. And that was awesome. It was cool. But I did sell all of that at PRG. I really should have shot this before that. I apologize. But at least you get to see what I'm keeping. And if you were at PRGE, then you already saw a lot of this. Or bought some. Thank you. And the last thing I want to talk about is gashapons. Because if you are familiar with Japanese anything, really, gashapons are a thing. They're like, the quarter machines that you get a thing out of, but they're not a quarter. They're like several hundred yen, depending on what it is. But I bought quite a few. I bought a adorable Kirby hat for my cats. Worth it. I'm buying more cat hats when I go back because there was a strange amount of cat hats, and I think I'm okay with it because there was a lot and I have cats and I'm weird. So I will love to dress my cat up as a pineapple. But, so I got a few things that I haven't really opened yet, I guess. I kind of know what it is. So I'm gonna open these for you guys. This Kirby was the first gashapon I bought in Japan. This was in Osaka and I had to figure out how to get change. It was a whole thing. But I got little Kirby with an apple. He's so cute. Oh, damn. And then the other one, I'll live open for you guys because I know what it is, but I haven't opened it yet. And this I got from the Pokemon Cafe. Okay, you guys, the Pokemon Cafe. It was absolutely wonderful. It was the best food that I had at a Pokemon cafe, at a themed cafe, and it was Pokemon, and it was amazing, and my childhood heart was exploding. It was so great. But they had a bunch of gashapons there, and the one I got was an enamel pin, and it's a really cute, like, Pikachu with fireworks. It's so cute. Oh, I love it. So, if you're into little knick-knacky things, gashapons are great for that, and they're not that expensive. I ended up with a lot of like loose change, and after a few days in Japan, I could normally just dig through my little coin purse and buy a gashapon if I was just like, oh, that's cute no matter which one I get, because it is also a blind box. There's also that. But you guys, it was amazing. Game hunting in Japan was one of the most fun things I've ever done. And I love game hunting. I love, garage sales, thrift stores. I love all of it. But Japan was a whole new level because it was, awesome game shopping. That's a plastic thing sticking to me. It was awesome game shopping, you know, awesome food, awesome beer. It was so much fun, and I cannot recommend it enough. And I'm actually going again in May with Metal Jesus, actually, because I talked him into it. But, you know, I'm gonna have a little bit more cohesive videos out of it. And my first time, I was just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I've learned a lot, I think. And it was so much fun. I can't recommend it enough. I hope you guys loved my pickups from Japan because you guys have been asking for it. So I was so excited to share it with you guys. And so thank you so much for watching. You can find me on the internet at KinsZilla, KinsZilla, at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And thank you so much for subscribing, and cheers.